GM Farmers. I'm Beanthoven, filling in for Rex, who's filling in for Bella Beantalk, who is filling in for me. We are so back. Today is Monday, May 22nd, and this is your weekly Roundup. At the DAO meeting on Thursday, Guy talked about the Temp Check 1 vote, which is now passed. Stockholders can now vote on specific seed rewards with Temp Check 2. Later on, this same process will be used for the Beaneth LP token. Guy also talked about the new Silo v3 timeline, as well as for the Beaneth pool.
So today we had another meeting with Halborn regarding their audit and gave them a walkthrough of some of the new changes we've implemented, and that is likely to take them 1 to 2 weeks. And there is still a interface and a bunch of SDK changes that will be necessary to implement for that to be ready for proposal. And related, Harry Smith asks if Silo v3 pushes this to July for the Beaneth pool. Probably, but not necessarily. I mean, they are sort of, at least technically, separate work streams, but, you know, the people we have staffed on each thing are the same people. So we'll get to refocus our efforts on the Bayesian integration once the Silo v3 contracts are finalized, hopefully in the next couple days, such that, you know, Halborn can audit them. So basically, don't think that the number of weeks that Silo v3 gets pushed back will be the same number of weeks that the Beaneth pool gets pushed back, but probably some amount, if that makes sense. So to answer your question more directly, I feel like July is pretty reasonable at the moment.
They gave some context on what's left to be done before launch, and talked about what you in the Discord can do to help with testing.
The hope is to basically set up a mainnet fork that everybody can talk to and deploy the code updates to it, and push the UI with all of the relevant changes, a couple of weeks ahead of time so that everybody can experiment with it. It's going to take some time to get that right. There's some technical problems with it, but we're working on that now.
Awesome. Yeah, and as far as who might be a good candidate for doing some of this testing, certainly don't need to be a dev, but it would be great to have someone with a little bit of command line experience. So we'll be more clear on the ask and who we're looking for once we get a little bit closer to that point.
Silo Chad and Sweet Red Beans also gave dev and design updates.
The main focus remains on wrapping up Silo v3 and Basin code and making sure that those are audited to spec. So we are in the final stages of preparing the remediations that Cypherin provided us and have a document nearly done for them, and just trying to get all of those last things kind of patched together.
Have mostly been focused on the Basin UX, and think we have a pretty good 6th or 7th iteration here. Then I think the visual design is sort of all starting to come together. The UX is pretty close. So at this point, hopefully going to spend some time in the next week working on making the UX as we have it responsive so that it will work on mobile and look nice on mobile. And then planning to spend some time working on the Basin word mark. I'm hoping to have a couple stabs at that by hopefully a week from now. And then we'll get started on designing the well composer flow, which may not release when we launch wells, but maybe shortly after. But otherwise, I think we're getting pretty close here.
If anyone wants to see any leaks of the interface that Red Beans, Albin, and Marshall have been working on, I believe there's a thread in Dev Journal called Bayesian SDK and UI that's public.
The Beanifesto they've been working on is now ready and live, and Scrib went over some of their ongoing efforts to spread the word.
This morning when it went live, we also sent it out to just a massive comprehensive list of about 300 reporters and journalists, and that was also preceded by going to some select Tier 1, Tier 2 journalists yesterday, and throwing it under embargo. And so that was to a list of about 70 people. So we've done quite a bit of active outreach, and so hopefully we'll see some returns on that front.
They're now looking to reinvigorate Google search results for Beanstalk with more recent news and articles.
There's just a lot of stuff about the past where we're trying to find ways to get some new articles out, pretty much like easy wins so that we can start to pretty much bury that old news. And so one of the ways we're thinking of this as a new angle from the PR team is guest articles and op-ed submissions.
Lastly, they talked about their efforts to find well-fitting conferences and public events to get Publius in front of an IRL crowd.
But yeah, again, some of these might have, interesting talking panels that could fit. So we're just going to scour some of these conference lists that we have, make a short list, and come back to the team next week and see if anything fits.
And that's all for this week. It's good to be back, folks. I'll see you next time.